when people start having some challenges and they start cutting stuff, lead gen is often the first thing they cut just because it's a big number. If you don't have marketing and you don't have lead gen, you don't have a business. And the problem is you don't feel it right away because you have some stuff in the pipeline. There's still some direct mail hanging out there. Somebody put it on the refrigerator, or you've got some leads in the pipeline that your follow-up works and they come back around. But 6 months away, you just hit a brick wall. And then the unfortunate thing is, in order to get anywhere again, you have to start that thing up and you have to start to fill your pipeline again. And those don't turn into immediate sales either.
Hey friends, welcome back to the Evergreen Marketing Podcast by Kara.com. We're here to help you build a business of freedom and impact for real estate investors. Today I've got with me, I don't even know, 6th, 7th, 8th time on the podcast, the man behind Investor Fuel, Investor Machine, and has worked with literally hundreds of investors over the last decade or so. And over the last 5 years has crossed the $50 million mark in ad spend and spent in marketing dollars for investors, generating motivated seller leads. So we're going to be talking today about what's working in marketing, what you need to pay attention to, maybe debunking some myths around marketing, and just how to get more leads as a real estate investor with Mr. Mike Hambright. It's good to connect. You've been in our ecosystem. I know you and Trevor go way back, but yeah, it's always good to chat with you, man. Get a pulse on what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. So, friends, before we get into the weeds on marketing here, a tip that actually works. Okay, so the tip this week is, you may have heard this before, but this is SEO 101. This is critical if you're doing any sort of SEO. If you're trying to show up in Google for when people search for your brand name, it's called NAP. And I don't mean sleeping. It's name, address, phone number. So your name, your business name, and your address and the phone number that you're using for this business need to be consistent across all your online profiles. If you're just building a website, getting started in SEO, the name, address, phone number need to be the same on your Google business profile as it is on your website, as it is on your Facebook profile, because Google wants to see all those consistently so they can recognize, oh, okay, Brady buys houses, whatever, MikeHambrightBuysHouses.com. These are all the same business and they know how to connect the dots. So that's SEO 101. If you're not doing that, then go fix it. Hope that tip helps you out. But anyways, let's get into it. What's working? So, Mike, tell me about kind of first, I'll bring it up to like the highest level and then we'll get down into some of the weeds and tactics. But what do you see working really well right now for investors?
Well,
what's kind of like the state of online marketing?
The most important thing is consistency. And everybody knows that, but not everybody does that. Right. And I think the past couple of years have been challenging. I mean, there's plenty of people that are in Investor Fuel and in our Investor Machine, members of Investor Machine that have absolutely crushed it over the last few years. It doesn't mean that it hasn't been a bumpy road, right? But I think the people that have had the most bumpy road, or those that have gotten knocked out of the game, or those that moved to the sidelines, are those that just stopped lead gen and stopped lead gen in a significant way. So, it's already kind of a roller coaster of this business is already a roller coaster because our profits are so high, right? So it's not like we're selling slices of pizza or something and like sales are up or down 5 or 10%. It's like you can go from 2 or 3 deals a month to zero, especially if you cut or slash your advertising. So I think just consistency is what's important. And I always say I'm biased because I own a lead gen company, but I believe this for, I've been a real estate investor for 17 years I believe this the whole time that the last thing you should ever cut is lead gen. So when people start having some challenges and they start cutting stuff, lead gen is often the first thing they cut just because it's a big number for, some investors, but it literally is the lifeblood of your business. And so if you cut that, if you don't have marketing and you don't have lead gen, you don't have a business. And the problem is you don't feel it right away because you have some stuff in the pipeline. There's still some direct mail hanging out there. Somebody put it on the refrigerator. Or you've got some leads in the pipeline that your follow-up works and they come back around. But 2, 3, 6 months away, you just hit a brick wall. And then the unfortunate thing is, in order to get anywhere again, you have to start that thing up and you have to start to fill your pipeline again. And those don't turn into immediate sales either, generally. So what happens is people sometimes get 2 or 3 months back into it and they're like, oh, it's not working. So then they stop again. And it's like, well, you just weren't doing it long enough for it to work. So you create this real kind of bullwhip effect that damages your business for probably 12 months, if not ever, because sometimes in all that disruption, people are just like, I'm going to move on to something else, you know?
Yeah, what you're describing as you're talking about this sounds like driving through the streets of San Francisco up a hill, start, stop, start, stop. It's jarring. It costs you way more. It literally costs you more in gas, and it's way less efficient than if you're just like cruising along, the access road at 45 miles an hour. It's way
Yeah.
more efficient. That's kind of
Yeah.
what I'm picturing in my head.
Yeah.
What's that conversation look like? So let's say I'm an investor. I'm spending, a couple $1,000 on direct mail or with you. And I'm like, Mike, I feel like, like I'm pressed for money. It's been a little bit since I closed a deal. Everything's getting more expensive. I think I need to cut my marketing down. What's that conversation look like? Convince me.
Yeah. Well, so we have a whole team, so I'm not having those conversations with people, but the truth is our average customer, just because at Investor Machine, we're pretty, we license counties and we've got a lot of support, like white glove support. So it's very much kind of like almost like a fractional marketing, almost like a fractional CMO, right? So if you're only spending a couple $1,000s a month, like you, we don't allow you into the system. And we're kind of looking at people that have bigger budgets ultimately.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make sense, but at any channel, like I think that is the challenge is in most markets around the country right now, this differs greatly whether you're in San Francisco or Dallas or Des Moines, Iowa, is like what is how much marketing do you have to spend to get a deal, right?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so there is probably no market in the country that you could spend a couple $1,000s and do well. And that's just the reality of it, so but if you don't have a lot of money, then you just have to hustle. Like you got to work hard and spend your own kind of time capital to get those deals. And so that's been one of the challenges is a lot of people don't spend enough to make their engine run. And so I'm that guy that thinks that not a lot of people are spending nearly enough money on marketing. And I talk a lot about ROAS, return on ad spend. So what's the ROI? If I put $1 in, how many dollars do I get back? And so I'm more of the volume guy, high volume guy that's like, look, if you spend $1 and you get 4 back or a 400% return on your ad spend, ROAS, that is the kind of the minimum expectation. Like you should be getting at least a 400% ROAS, return on ad spend. And if you put in, so said another way, if you put in, in a market like Dallas where I'm at, the unless you're out hustling and humping it and stuff like that, I'm talking about people that are spending money and their money is working for them. It might be between $6,000 and $10,000 in ad spend to get a deal for direct mail or pay per click or any of the paid channels. And so, but if you're making $30,000 or $40,000 a deal, then you're like, okay, well, if I can do that 3 times a month, I should do it. If I can do it 5 times a month, then keep putting money in because it's like the return is good, right? And by the way, if your ROAS is 8 or 10x, sometimes people are like, I'm getting a 10x return on my ad spend, and like you can't put ROAS, you can't put a percentage return in the bank. Like only real dollars matter, right? So I usually give this analogy: if you're getting an 8 or 10 return on your marketing spend, which is rare, but it happens, that is a clear sign that you need to spend more money, right? I give this analogy as like going to a pond or going to a lake somewhere and fishing, and you're catching fish like crazy. You wouldn't say, well, I'm going to stop in about 5 minutes. Or, you'd be like, okay, let me put 2 rods out. Like, let me like try more things. Right. And so a high ROAS, a high return on your ad spend basically says put more lines in the water because the fishing here is good. Right. And so, like if you were anything else, if people like bought a stock or they bought a mutual fund and it was going really well, they know what to do. Put more money in if you can. Right. And it's the same thing with advertising. Advertising is an investment. If you get a higher return, put more money in it because that's how you grow your business, you know?
Yeah, instead of just basking in it and just chilling and be like, "Oh, it's
Yeah,
working." Yeah, double down.
right.
That's
Nobody's
good
ever been out
advice.
like fishing for marlin. You know, you got an all day trip, right? And you go out and right in the morning you catch one big nice one. Nobody's like, let's go back to the dock now. They're like pumped, right? Like, holy cow, we're probably gonna catch 5 of them today. So you like get more lines out, keep the lines in the water. You know, you're just like
Yeah,
that. And that's how marketing should be as well. But not everybody thinks that way.
that's funny, man. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Um, so you're talking about ROAS. Before we hit record, you were talking about cost per lead. Why does cost per lead not matter as much to you as ROAS? And I guess what I'm saying is like, what are the most
Yeah.
important metrics you're paying attention to?
So a lot of people look at cost per lead and they look at cost per acquisition, like cost per contract, right? But the problem is like, well, cost per contract, if you have a high rate of things that can't contracts that get canceled, like cost per contract doesn't matter. And even cost per lead, it doesn't matter if you have a low conversion. And so while cold calling and texting, which is kind of dying really, but
Yeah,
they have the lowest cost per lead, but it takes like, you know, 3 to 5 to 10 times more leads to convert one, right? So at the end of the day, the cost per lead doesn't matter. What really matters is how many dollars you get back for every dollar you put in. And inbound lead generation just typically has a 2 to 300% higher return um, on um, on your capital on that investment, right? The other problem with outbound lead gen is most people don't really put in the real cost of all the effort to pull that off. Like, so obviously
interesting.
you're paying people. If you had, so by the way, I'm referring to somebody that has a outbound calling team, right? If they have a few
Yeah,
people, I mean, it could be one person or it could be 10 people, but they're hiring people to do it. And by the way, if it's the owner doing it, they often way undersell that because they're not considering the opportunity cost of their time versus anything else
huge.
they could be
Yeah,
doing. So with outbound stuff, it's a grind and a hustle, and most people don't really put in the real cost of pulling off that hind and that hustle. And it's not just the cost of the number of people you have on your team, it's the cost of constantly recruiting because it's a revolving door. It's the cost of being told to F off all day long and the mental toll that takes on you. I mean,
yeah,
it's like all those things,
yeah.
right? And you know, that's why not only does outbound lead generation, mail, SEO, PPC, TV, not typically have not only does it not only does it have a much higher return on ad spend, typically the profits are much higher from those channels. It's way easier to execute because you know, it's not any more work to do $20,000 in direct mail than it is to do $2,000. You just have to get a bigger list. And because, you know, and I guess, again, unless you're licking mailers yourself, which that's ridiculous if anybody's doing that, but it happens.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, man. Yeah, investors way undersell the opportunity cost. Like they don't look at
Oh,
like,
yeah.
okay, what else could I be doing to grow this business other than just making cold calls or
Yeah.
actually doing their own direct mail in house,
And
which is
let's not
funny.
forget about why we all got into this business anyway. It was to make enough money to be able to have freedom in our life.
Yeah,
Right? So, like I always say, like, well, what else could you be doing with your time? And by the way, like hanging out with your family, going golfing, like, you know, reading a book, like all those things are, you know, uh, how often you get to do those.
right. So, I mean, so me, like Carrot, we're all about inbound. Like obviously you need other marketing channels working, but like I'm talking about SEO all day long, SEO and Google Ads and inbound marketing because we know this. We know it's better lead quality, and we know they convert way more often. Like 1 in 10 SEO leads versus 50 cold call leads to get a deal. But what are you seeing as far as like profit per deal? Where are the bigger deals coming from?
Yeah. Well, I think the profit on I mean, I'm biased again because we do a lot of mail for other customers, but I believe this to my core. Like mail tends to be the highest profit deals because you can highly target who you send to,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can only send to higher end houses if that's what you want to do. You know, at Investor Machine, we're really a predictive data company that uses a massive amount of data. I mean, we have data scientists, we've got software developers. We've got all these people to basically find and manipulate data so that we're going after the people that are the most likely to sell. So we're kind of big game hunting, right? So at the end of
Yeah.
the day, because you can hyper target who that advertising even goes to, they tend to have the best profits and they tend to be the most motivated because although I think pay-per-click and SEO are super, critical for your business as well. We can talk about that in a little bit as to how they all work together. But anybody could see based on the way that typically that people are running paid ads is they're casting a wide net. So anybody could fill out that form. And I think SEO leads are even better than pay-per-click because they've come to your site, they've raised their hand and said, I want to talk about this. Pay-per-click
Yeah.
has as well, but if it's SEO, like they sought you out, like
Yeah.
pay-per-click, they might have just got served up an ad that like kind of sounds interesting, but they weren't necessarily looking for you. With
Right.
SEO, they found you and they raised their hand, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
I think SEO and mail are definitely probably the best two leads. Of course, the challenge with SEO is it's a long game approach and you can't necessarily control it. And that's why other channels are a little bit more predictable as to like when you turn them on, leads are going to come in.
Right. Yeah. We kind of talk about it as like the three-legged stool. Like you need at least three marketing channels for a stool to be stable.
Yeah.
Or, well, I just mix those analogies. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
need three marketing channels for your business to be stable in case one of those legs gets swept out from under you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So having SEO and direct mail. So, yeah, and we see the same thing. It's like direct mail can be really profitable when it's hyper targeted. I think you probably see the same thing where investors will be like, they didn't focus on the data enough. They didn't target well enough. They just blast a bunch of direct mail. Like, well, it didn't work for me. I wasn't
That's
getting a good
most.
return.
That's most. Yeah. And that's a shame. This is another problem that a lot of real estate investors have is they've in their mind, I tried that and it didn't work. But it
Mm,
wasn't it was their approach to it that didn't work. Right. And so or the length of time. Like I always tell people, like, you should never go into any channel to where like I really kind of have two rules. You need to spend enough on that channel to be able to do at least one deal a month in order for you to see it work. And you need to stick with that channel for at least 6 months with the expectation of no return and not give up for 6 months. Because, you know, we're marketing to people that have been distressed for years, if not decades. And real estate investors think that if you market to them like one time, you're they're going to be ripe for the picking, right? It's like, no,
mm.
they need to be constantly like all this advertising is you're just tapping them on the shoulder. You're just like, hey, when you need it, we're here for you. Don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. That's kind
Yeah.
of it's like you're just like tapping them, like, hey, don't forget about us, right? Because a lot of these people, they know they're going to need you someday, and all you're doing is making sure that you insert yourself into their thoughts so that when the time comes, they're like, I know who I'm going to call, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. You got to keep tapping them on the shoulder. You know, it's that phrase is really popular. Like, what is it? They say it takes like 7 touch points on average for a consumer to do business with a brand, like to buy a thing,
Yeah,
whatever it is, like across all marketing, across all industries. I feel like that touch point has gotten higher in recent years just because marketing has gotten so much more noisy. And with
yeah.
social media, we're just like inundated with ads from everyone. Do you have any like guess what that number might be right now?
I have no idea what the number is, but it is back to that consistency that we talked about up front. I can tell you that I think that this law of reciprocity is very real and I'm this way and I'm a little bit of a different. I mean, I'm a marketer, I'm a student to marketing, I'm a student to the entrepreneurship game, right? But I think everybody is like this on some level. Like they start to feel like so sometimes people get really pissed if they like, I keep getting your mailers, like take me off your list or whatever.
Yeah.
But those people were never going to use you and they never probably needed you, right? The people that like, oh man, someday I might have to use these folks. There's this law of reciprocity of like I'm certain that if you were mailing somebody every 30 to 60 days for 2 or 3 years, and you know that that house is in your buy box, the data tells you that they're distressed and they're likely to sell at some point. Um, and if I hit them, let's just say I hit them, 24 or 36 times over a 2 to 3 or 4 year period, like every couple months, versus somebody, when that day comes that they're like, you know what, we got to sell our house to somebody that can just pay cash for it, and we can be done with this thing. They're going to call the person that's been mailing to them for years, not the postcard they just got for the first time the other day. Just because they're
Yeah.
like, they almost feel like there's some level of fate there. Like they've known for a. That we're struggling or whatever. It's just
Yeah.
this law of reciprocity of like, they must be legitimate because they didn't just show up. They've been trying to talk to me for years. Right. And, I mean, I do it like, honestly, I want to buy stuff or work with people that were seemingly more thoughtful in their marketing to me, or that were more, I don't want to say aggressive, but consistent than just the
Yeah.
person that just popped out of the bushes. I'm like, I don't even know that guy. These people have been talking to me for 2 years. And
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Or, honestly, with that marketing too, is like let me tell you the very best list to mail to, and not very many people do this. This is the very best list. This is a hot off the presses tip here, is mail to the leads you've already generated.
Oh,
Right? They're
yeah.
already in your CRM. And a lot of people say, well, no, we're already following up with them. But like, just keep mailing to them. They've already raised their hand once.
Yeah.
And, it might be another year, 2, 3 years. It might be never, by the way, but that is the best list. They are, if you think of like retargeting, like online with online leads, these are the hottest. They called you, right? And they ask
Yeah.
questions. And so that law of reciprocity that I just said is even a bigger deal if they've talked to you and you've served them well. They're like, oh, I keep getting these mailers still from Brady's company. And yeah, he answered a bunch of my questions. And so in the back of their mind, like if they had to sell today, it would be you. But also in the back of their mind, they're like, well, I just got my tax return, so I'm going to be able to get situated here or whatever.
Hmm.
And for I don't want anybody to be in distress, but the reality is people die, people get divorced all the time. People tear up rental properties and piss the landlords off. Like all those
Hmm.
people, if they called you, I like to say, if there's smoke, there's fire, right? So there was some smoke, and eventually there's going to be fire. And the more you can follow up with them, including continuing to mail them, maybe even retargeting them with Facebook ad or ads, um, then it starts to feel like fate. Like, oh, I know we talked and you answered a lot of my questions. I just keep seeing you everywhere. And that there's a lot of power in that a lot of real estate investors just ignore.
That's funny. When you said the best list, I thought you were going to say like custom lists, like driving for dollars, niche list, but I
Yeah.
didn't see that coming. But
Yeah.
you're right, man. I mean, we tell people all the time, it's like, like if you're using SCRM or if you're using our CRM, like make sure to like put your leads on a drip sequence. So you're shooting them a text, an email, phone call, or a postcard, whatever, just to stay top of mind with the leads you've already generated. For us, I'm usually talking more like online marketing. So it's email. It's like, hey, send them an email with your how it works page, or it's like, hey, we haven't talked in a while. If you have any questions about how the process works, check out this page in this video. It'll kind of walk you through the process. Or like, here's our about page. Here's a little bit more about our company in case you want to get to know us and our team. We're local. Here's what we stand for, etc.
Yeah.
In an email. And just
Yeah.
like you said, you're staying top of mind. They might not reply, but you're just staying top of mind. You're adding value as opposed to just trying to outspend.
Absolutely.
So any ways to lower ad costs right now or marketing costs overall?
So oddly enough, one way to get more efficient at your marketing, like, I guess I'm not talking to the hustler that doesn't have money and has to go out and hustle stuff up. Like, if that's where you're at, then that's where you're at. And I totally get it. But once you get to the point where you're spending money on paid lead gen, the way to get more efficient is oddly enough is to spend more, and have more channels, because people will get something in the mail and then they're going to go look for you online. And you don't even have to have a huge budget, like necessarily. But if you have not been doing SEO and running pay-per-click ads, at least for your branded keywords, Brady buys
Mhm.
houses, right? If you're not, like, you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money on a really robust, all sorts of keywords, sell my house fast, sell my house now, sell my house yesterday, how do I sell my house in 5 days, like whatever, all these like keywords that you could buy. And pay-per-click folks are managing thousands, if not tens of thousands of keywords for you and your market. But if you're not doing at least branded keywords, your brand, your name, the name of your company, some variations of the name of your company, and that can be low budget, and even in major markets, 500 or $1,000 a month. Um, then people are seeing your postcard for Brady Buys Houses, and maybe even you have your URL in there, bradybuys.houses.com. Well, here's the problem: is most people don't go into like the exact match and like go to your URL. They do a search for bradybuys.houses.com,
Yep.
and if you're not buying your keywords, your competitors probably are, the smart ones. And
Yep.
so all of a sudden, you advertised through direct mail, for example, and um, you sent that lead straight to your competitor because you didn't, at a minimum, at least buy your branded keywords, right? And write a whole bunch of SEO and topics and kind of content, a content strategy around at least your keywords, because a lot of people get mail. I mean, I do. Like, for
Yeah.
everything that's a high value anything in my life, the first thing I do is Google it. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not buying those keywords and you haven't built up kind of a moat around your brand and your keywords from an SEO perspective, then they're gonna find somebody else, right? And you're gonna, all that money was a waste. So that's how you make your
Yeah.
marketing more efficient, is you kind of have this omnipresence of, I'm gonna be hyper targeted, and I'm gonna have a few channels all around my brand and stuff like that, because people, um, especially if you're not retargeting. For example, let's say that they find you on SEO, and they visit your site. If you're not pixeling them and then retargeting
Mhm.
them with ads on Facebook and Google, which doesn't have to be a big budget, you could have a small retargeting budget because the number of people they're displaying the ad to is really small. So if you're not at
Yeah.
least doing that, then people are coming to your site, checking you out for a little bit, and then they don't even know how to get back there. But if all of a sudden you're following them around, then that helped you be really efficient with acquiring those customers or those leads.
Oh yeah, it's so true, man. It's like the more marketing you have going, the more touch points, the better the chances they're going to actually get in touch with you. Because I feel like as marketers, as investors in our head, it's like, oh well, I sent them an email. If they want to find us, they're going to go back to the email. But
Yeah.
like, we got so much going on. We're so
Yeah.
inundated with ads. It's like you need those multiple paths for people to get back to you.
Right.
Um, it's funny you had mentioned about like branded keywords, like paying for PPC ads for your branded keywords for your business. I agree with that, and for SEO too. I was actually having a conversation with a guy at an event last week. I won't mention his company name, but I was like, "Yeah, do you have a website? What's your company name? Let's see if you're showing up online. Let's see if you're losing any leads." And he's like, "Okay, here's my company name." And he's like, "Yeah, it's really good." And I won't mention it because I don't want to call him out. And it is a decent company name, but it wasn't unique and specific enough. And so that's another reason why I'm telling investors, like, you need to have something specific, like Brady buys houses. Like I can't actually pick that because there's a carrot member in Idaho named Brady, and that's his. I found this out the other day. That's his website, BradyBuysHouses.com. So I got to come up with a new
Yeah.
fake name. But it's memorable and it's specific and it's pretty dang unique. I can't imagine there's more than a couple out there like that. But it needs to be memorable and unique so you're not competing with, other brands with the same name. Anyway, so he gave it to me. He wasn't showing up. So I'm like, okay, I know where your leads are going to. And he's like, I'm making cold calling, I'm doing direct mail. I was like, okay, you're guaranteed losing some of those marketing dollars to these two specific competitors who I know of that are actually carrot members. They're going to these websites. And he's like, oh crap. So I was like, okay, let me Google your business name and then the city. It was like St. Louis. It's like, okay, you're showing up there. And then the funny thing was, he showed up number one. I clicked on his website. It was broken. It wasn't even loading at all. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude! Like we gotta get, we gotta get you on Carrot. Like your website. When's the last time you checked on this? I thought that was just Funny for
Or
me,
people
sad
put
for
like
him.
hyphens in their URL, or like
Yeah, don't do that.
nobody is going to just know that, right? So then the
Yeah.
problem is they're going to Google you and they're going to find somebody else probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that happens. And some people just don't believe it. I'm like, you got to understand, like everyone's just going to Google. That's just the nature of a seller. Well, I know we got to wrap it, bring it to a close here. We got a few more minutes. But anything you feel like what's the most important thing investors need to be paying attention to? You know, like what's coming down the pipeline?
I think they need to be paying attention to is themselves and their own junk in their mind, right? I mean, you have to really focus on stuff you can control. You can't control interest rates. You can't control who's in the White House. Like you can't control those things, right? And so the reality is that go look at the real estate market and price appreciation over as long as data has been collected. And there's if there's people and they live in houses, which isn't going to change, there's still plenty of opportunity for us. And so I think what's really happened right now, one of the main things that's happening right now is if you think of like the ponds that real estate investors fish in, there's two big ponds historically. One of them is the distressed seller that is from death, divorce, inheritance, tired landlords. Consider landlords. Consider that the home ownership rate in America is around 65%, give or take a couple points, right? So it might be more like 60 to 65%. Well, that means 35 to 40% of the homes in America are rental properties, right? Those are owned by landlords. And a lot of them the biggest chunk of that are people that own one. They don't live there. Maybe that was their first house and they bought another house and moved up. Maybe they inherited the house they grew up in and they turned into a rental. Could be any of those things. But those folks, it's either their situation on the rental property is either okay for now or a nightmare. Like it's just a matter of time before somebody doesn't pay you rent and you got to evict them. Somebody tears the house up, maybe all those things, right? And so, but that one pond is distressed houses, people that are going to sell right now, soon because they just are in a situation where they're in a pickle and they need to sell.
Yeah.
That, like, despite what's going on with interest rates or the economy or whoever's in the White House, people didn't stop dying. People, unfortunately, didn't stop getting divorced. Tenants did not stop tearing up houses because Trump's in the White House now. Like, I mean, all those things are still happening, have never stopped, and will continue forever, unfortunately. So all that activity is still happening. Why I think a lot of volume is down is for the other pond that investors fish in, which is the convenience seller, the one that's like, my house is already worth 10 times more than when I bought it, so I'll sell it for, you know, a good deal to a real estate investor, and it needs a lot of work. It might need a lot of work, but they're the person that just is selling on convenience. So like this is the easy route. I don't have to hire a realtor. I don't have to fix that roof. I don't have to do these things, right? And so that is about 50% of the average real estate investor's business. That has largely dried up because those people that are selling for convenience are usually buying something else. And they can't afford the next house right now because interest rates are double or more what they were, a few years ago. And they've lived in the house long enough to where they either didn't have a payment, or if they refinanced, it was cheap money. And now they can't afford, 7% interest rate or whatever, 6.5, 7%. So that's what's really on the sidelines right now is that convenience seller, but there's still plenty of opportunity out there. So, and the other thing I think is that a lot of people hear like, oh, it's tough out there. And so they start to like convince themselves that it's tough out there. And the reality is a lot of the competition is gone or on the sidelines right now. So there's a lot of people that are in my mastermind, people that are in my inner circles that are crushing it right now. And it's not because the market is doing well in their market. It's because they stole market share from other people because they didn't have as much mind junk, or because a lot of the competition went away. So if you're in a major market, like I'm in the DFW market, there's 8 million people here, right? And at one point there were 7 million investors, the 8 million people maybe. But right now there's only a few hundred that are doing anything meaningful, or maybe there's 50, right? And so you don't have to wait for the market to kind of get better. Just get better yourself and go steal market share from your other would-be competitors out there, some of which you don't even know who they are, right? So just be a better operator. I mean, that is how you really get ahead in this business, is stop worrying about your competition and just worry how to make yourself better 1% every single day.
Hmm. That is really good advice, man. You kind of answered a question I didn't even get to ask you, but I was going to ask about like, how is messaging changing in marketing? And you hit it on the head. It's like focus more on the distress seller, less on the person selling for convenience, because that's where the opportunity is right now.
Yeah.
But that's good, man. And there's also a lot of power in our words. Like you say, you keep saying, "Oh, it's a hard market. It's hard out there right now." You're just convincing yourself. You're making it harder for yourself by saying that and putting it out into the ether. But that's so true, man. All right. Well, before we wrap it up, we'll bring it to a close in just a minute. But quick fire round. I want to end this with some value. So, okay, I'm going to give you 4 questions. I did not prep you for these.
Yeah, no idea what's happening.
Don't worry, they're not too lofty, but we'll just keep them short and simple and answer them the best you can. But number 1, what's your best piece of marketing advice for investors right now? Either a strategy or a tactic?
I would say generally just stop trying to be cheap. Like a lot of real estate investors are cheap and they want cheap houses, cheap labor, cheap materials, all this stuff. So you should not cheap out on marketing because, the better marketing should be more expensive, but there's less waste in it because you're not wasting money marketing people that are never going to sell to you anyway. So don't be cheap with marketing. And then the other one is people. Don't be cheap with people on your team.
Ooh, that's really good advice. Yeah, don't be cheap. You're gonna waste some marketing. Okay, number 2. What's a book that changed your life, monumental for you, and what's the problem it
The book
solved?
that I read. I listen to. I buy. Let's say this. I buy a lot of books with the intention of reading them or listening to them. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
listen to all of them, but a powerful book for sure that if you haven't read, you need to is Who Not How. So a lot of us are,
Hmm.
as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to figure out how do I solve this? How do I solve this? One way you solve it is just by finding somebody else to solve it.
Interesting. Okay, did that mostly help you with hiring, or mostly like more of a mentor angle, like getting advice from people?
More higher in, like, if you're trying to build out a business that you're not the chief bottle washer on too. A lot of
Yeah.
times, whether it's an executive assistant or maybe if you're large enough, a COO or operations manager. Um, and so he allows you to start to kind of buy back your time, and you don't have to go figure out how to do everything. You just have to find the right person that you can bring on that can make your life a lot easier and free up a lot of your time so you can focus on more strategic things or, God forbid, enjoying your life more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. That's a good recommendation. Okay, number 3 out of 4. What advice would you give to younger Mike Hambright?
Yeah, good one. Start earlier.
Start earlier.
Start earlier. Yeah, that's I've done almost 2,000 podcasts myself now, hosted them, and I would say the 2 biggest regrets that people have are they wish they had started earlier, like at a younger age, and they wish that they had kept more of the houses that they flipped or wholesaled as rentals because they'd be a lot wealthier right now.
Oh, that is too true, man. That's too true. Okay, and then last thing, I said there weren't going to be any lofty ones, and I lied. Is there anything you're doing outside real estate or within real estate? Any impact you're making that really lights you up? Anything that you're really passionate, hot and heavy about right now?
The thing I'm probably the most passionate about, I don't know if this answers your question, it's a little bit weird, is I'm actually out at my ranch in East Texas. So we live in Dallas and we bought 104 acres and built a kind of a family compound out here.
Oh, cool.
And, it was a little bit of a pet project, like really more for us, like our family. And it's turned into, I just had an event here for the last 3 days with some of my mastermind members and private clients. And so it's really around creating experiences to bring people together
Mm.
to try to impact their lives in a personal, in a big way. And so it gives me more pleasure in my life now if I know that I'm creating opportunities to help improve the lives of others. And so I think for a lot of real estate investors, we're generally helping, those that are listening that are just truly just real estate investors. I obviously have a mastermind, I have some other businesses, but just try to find a way to impact the lives of other people around you because it gives your life more meaning, kind of more purpose as to like what this is all for, which I think the last 5 years, a lot of people often ask themselves, like, what is this all for? Just through COVID and the downturn in the market and stuff like that. It's easy to get hung up on why the heck am I even doing this? And I think it gives your life a lot more meaning if it's helping others.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's really cool to hear about the family compound and just what you're doing with your community. You have a stellar community. I like to say selflessness is sustainable. Like when you're doing things for other people, when you have a good mission, a vision, it kind of carries you through those lulls when times
Yeah.
get really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate the conversation. I know we're at time here. Thanks for answering the questions. You nailed it. Anybody listening, if you like this, leave us a review, share with a friend. If you want to join Investor Fuel, if you need to be in a mastermind, want to get around other people that are doing this well, go check out Investor Fuel. We have them in the Carrot Marketplace too. Go to marketplace.carrot.com. And connect with Mike, connect with Investor Fuel, Investor Machine. Check them out if you need marketing help, and if you need a coach, you want to work with Trevor on how to grow your business and grow as a person. Check out our Epic coaching program that Trevor runs, carrot.com/epic. But yeah, we're here to help. We'd love to help you out. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for hopping on, Mike.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys.